Hello, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. You are listening to Scenecraft. From opening shots to long takes and epilogues, we examine our favorite scenes from cinema here on the podcast. I'm Cody, here with my fellow hormonal vulgarians,
Mark
and Connor.
You can find Scenecraft on most social media platforms at Scenecraft Podcast for the latest news on the show. Today we'll be discussing Alexander Payne's The Holdovers. But as usual, let's begin with our brief What We've Been Watching segment, Quick Takes.
Speak quickly.
Quickly, thank you.
Quickly, come on. Hurry up, quicker.
Way quicker.
Okay, I'll say it fast.
What have you been watching this week?
So I went to the theater recently to see Anatomy of a Fall, which was directed by Justine Triet, and it was released in 2023. The logline reads, "A woman is suspected of her husband's murder, and their blind son faces a moral dilemma as the sole witness." So this is a French courtroom drama thriller that I believe all of us have seen. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this film. I think it plays much like an antidote to most Western storytelling in that it prioritizes authenticity over sensationalizing drama, which I've kind of grown accustomed to in some ways. Instead, this film focuses on the inner workings of a marriage and how a relationship between two people can be misconstrued and also not completely understood by those outside of it. This film is full of tremendous performances, incredible dialogue, and really strong direction. I would highly recommend seeing Anatomy of a Fall.
Loved it as well.
I really liked the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it,
Mhm.
didn't totally love it, and this is not a spoiler at all for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, but I feel dumb that I did not realize the kid was blind until like pretty far into the movie.
To be fair to the filmmaker, they do it in a very nice, subtle
They do.
way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah,
it's really a
right.
nice touch, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also went out to the theater to see Priscilla, which was directed by Sofia Coppola, released this year, 2023. I'm going to spare you guys the log line because we read it last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know, Cody, you're a huge fan of it.
Oh, I cannot even begin to tell you how much I hate this logline because it not only does it make it not about Priscilla, it makes it about Elvis, and it's inaccurate as to what it's
Right.
saying about
Right.
Elvis. It's just a terrible
like-
logline.
They saw an entirely different movie.
Yeah, just watch the movie. Just watch it.
So this one was covered by Cody on our last episode, but I recently went out to theaters to see it, and I think I'm slightly more positive about it than you were, Cody.
Mhm.
I thought this movie was fantastic, actually.
Mm.
A little backstory for me. I actually went through all of Sophia's filmography at the beginning of the pandemic and really enjoyed her directorial style and her emphasis on mood and atmosphere. And to me, a lot of her films almost feel dreamlike in a way. And I think her sensibilities lend themselves nicely to a story like Priscilla, which plays as a counterpoint to last year's larger than life depiction of Elvis. With Priscilla, we're given this intimate and often isolating look into the life of a global icon's significant other. And Coppola does a tremendous job showcasing the troubling circumstances of their start and their whole relationship and the resultant power dynamics. If you enjoy Coppola's other work, or if you're looking for an introspective depiction of what it's like to be married to a cultural figure, be sure to check out Priscilla.
That's great. I'm glad you liked it. And it has grown on me since our last episode. Like, I've thought about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing this, especially after hearing what you both had to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Connor, what have you been watching?
So I have been watching The Curse,
Mm-hmm.
created and written by Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie. This just came out last week, so middle of November this year.
Mm-hmm.
The logline reads, "A newlywed couple struggle to make their vision for eco-living a reality in a small New Mexico town." So we're all big Nathan Fielder fans here on the podcast. I feel like that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And when we heard Nathan Fielder was making a show with Benny Safdie of the Safdie brothers and Emma Stone, of all people, our imaginations ran wild. Texts were sent, news articles were shared. Mainly, we were just excited to see how Nathan Fielder's comedy translated into an actual scripted show where he's playing a character, or at least more of a character than he usually plays on something like Nathan For You or The Rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
We're only one episode in, but I'm absolutely loving where this is heading. It feels very new, very now. And so far, it seems to be a really fascinating inside and outside story. And what I mean by that is we're seeing how a couple wants themselves to look on the outside because they're making an HGTV show and carefully crafting their image with the help of their wild card producer who has what I'll call questionable taste that gets revealed in the first episode. And when the cameras are off, we then get a peek inside what's really going on in their marriage. And like what you were saying with Anatomy of a Fall, Mark, it's very different to anyone who is not inside of that relationship. I really have a feeling that this show is going to be super interesting, and I am excited to see where it goes. What about you guys?
Yeah, I loved the first episode. There are some really shocking moments in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just be careful who you watch it with, I would say. But I think it's really interesting too because Nathan For You was a story about a guy trying to help businesses, and it was supposed to be real.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Nathan brings a lot of history to a subject like this, where you depict something on screen as one thing, and then on the outside, it's something else.
Right.
So I think he brings a really unique perspective to that.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of the next logical step, especially mixed with Safdie.
Yeah.
In that horror element, that horror thriller kind of vibe. It makes total sense that he would do this.
Yes. So like Mark said, I would recommend checking this out, but just know there's a bit of a shocking scene in there or two. So
Yeah.
be forewarned. The next thing I watched is a movie called White Oleander, directed by Peter Kosminski from 2002. This is about a teenager who journeys through a series of foster homes after her mother goes to prison for committing a crime of passion. If you haven't heard of this movie, and I hadn't before I watched it, you might have heard of the best-selling book of the same name, White Oleander, that was an Oprah's Book Club book in 1999. So you guys know I have a soft spot for early 2000s movies, and I don't know what it is about them, especially like 2000, 2001, 2002 movies.
Mm-hmm.
It might be the nostalgia of it for me, or it might just be this naive sort of melancholy style of the movies made at the time. You might know what I mean when I say that, but this really stuck with me for whatever reason, because I watched it twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, kind of weirdly. But it's interesting in the sense that it has a character who is not often depicted on screen. And it's a mother character played by Michelle Pfeiffer, who's great. I think her performance is so good that it's worth watching alone just to see what she does in this movie. But she plays this narcissistic criminal who is raising an only child and basically creates a very hard life for this young girl played by Alison Lohman, who is in her on-screen debut in this movie.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Who then goes on to do, a bunch of other movies that we've all seen in the early 2000s. But it was cool to see her debut. I think there was, again, just something about this that really stuck with me. The music sounds like many piano-driven scores you'd hear in every kind of sad coming-of-age film from around this time, but it's also very distinct. Thomas Newman did the score. He's also known for doing Shawshank Redemption, American Beauty, Finding Nemo.
Wow. Nice.
Michelle Pfeiffer's in this, Renee Zellweger, Robin Wright, Alison Lohman, also the kid from Almost Famous. Just like a really interesting time capsule of the time. It was filmed right before the September 11th attacks and then released in 2002. So it kind of has that pre-2001 feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend checking this out as just an interesting artifact of the era. I really enjoy these kind of movies, but also for that character that Michelle Pfeiffer plays, I think it's really worth seeing something that's not often shown on film.
Very cool. Did you rent this or is it streaming right now?
I believe we rented it.
Okay.
And I think that's why I watched it twice, because we had that window.
Yeah, this was not even on my radar. Honestly, I haven't even heard of the title before.
Yeah, I hadn't either. So it's just one that popped up, looked interesting, and my wife and I thought we should watch it.
Cool.
That's great.
How about you, Cody? What have you been watching?
Yeah, speaking of book adaptations, I had a chance to see The Pigeon Tunnel, directed by Errol Morris. This was released last month, October 2023, on Apple TV Plus. The logline reads, filmmaker Errol Morris pulls back the curtain on the storied life and career of David Cornwell, the former spy known to the literary world as John le Carré. So for those who aren't familiar with the work of David Cornwell, who writes under his pen name John le Carré, he is widely considered to be one of the greatest novelists of the post-war era, and wrote thrillers like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and The Constant Gardener. This documentary is a nicely shot talking heads interview, a really long form interview with some beautiful reenactments and footage from his film adaptations. So I haven't read any of his novels, and I can't consider myself to be a fan because of that, and I think that is the main issue I encountered when watching The Pigeon Tunnel. It's really, really beneficial to know anything at all about Cornwell and his writing before going into this, because it really does not hold your hand in any way. I went in expecting more of like a traditional memoir from start to finish about this guy that would give a complete portrait. But Cornwell and Errol Morris, the way they carry their conversation throughout the interview, it's very flowery, it's very philosophical. I just found that to be really inaccessible and almost unfocused. It kind of felt like watching a therapy session, but you're like 10 sessions in and you miss the initial consultation. You just have no idea what's going on, who this person is. So the Pigeon Tunnel, ultimately, it's very visually pleasing and almost hypnotizing, but I wouldn't really recommend it unless you happen to be a big Le Carré fan. If you do want to check it out, it's Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
All right. Sounds like a skip for me.
Yeah.
Me too.
Next up, I watched The Killer, directed by David Fincher. This came out this month, November of 2023. It's available on Netflix, but I did get lucky. I saw it in a theater, which I think really added to my personal experience watching it. The logline for The Killer reads, after a fateful near miss, an assassin battles his employers on an international manhunt, which he insists isn't personal. So The Killer has a lot going for it. It has a really methodical procedural structure, which that's my catnip. I absolutely love that in a movie. And that's only intensified by David Fincher's precise visual style, as usual, and that specificity in Michael Fassbender's performance. And I know it's not trying to do the same exact thing, but this somehow feels like a step back from a mature masterpiece like Zodiac. It just seems to be a smaller effort in The Killer, similar to one of the action genre experiments like Steven Soderbergh cranked out with something like Kimmy or Haywire. Like, it's not great, but it's entertaining. So that's exactly what Fincher said he was going for, almost like a modern version of a B-movie thriller like Death Wish, with touches of comedy here and there. A lot of people are also interpreting this movie as Fincher satirically commenting on his own filmmaking and work while poking fun at his fans, which he's basically denied, but it's still fun to look at it through that lens. Ultimately, I think this is an entertaining revenge thriller, and I'll give a trigger warning for grisly death scenes in the movie, but I would recommend checking out The Killer on Netflix.
Okay.
So I actually saw this too, Cody, and I was super excited for it because I was listening and reading some things online that there were some comparisons to his earlier work, like
Panic Room.
And
Help me out here.
help you.
Yeah, Panic Room, Zodiac, Fight Club.
I don't really see too many similarities, but I think it was an all right movie. I guess my expectations were really high for David Fincher.
Well, it's Fincher.
It is Fincher.
It's Fincher. Yeah.
But it's a double-edged sword. It's like he can't make a bad movie, but this isn't one of my favorites either.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I still need to see this one too, so I'm behind on Priscilla and The Killer. I'll follow up with my thoughts to you both.
Yeah,
Cool.
so check it out. All right, well, thank you guys. And now let's move into our discussion about The Holdovers, starring Paul Giamatti, Davine Joy Randolph, and Dominic Sessa, among many others. And as with all of our scene selections, beware of spoilers ahead.
Need I remind you that it is not my fault that you are stuck here? Do you think I want to be babysitting you?
There's nobody here, okay? You stay out of my way, and I'll stay out of yours.
You just earned yourself a detention, sir.
Being here with you is already one big detention.
Son of a bitch, that's another detention!
The logline for the film reads, "A curmudgeonly history teacher at a New England boarding school is forced to chaperone a handful of students with nowhere to go over the winter holiday break." So, Mark, what did you think of The Holdovers?
So let me start off by saying that this was actually my most anticipated movie of the year. Right away from the promotional material of this film's release, I just had this sense that I would be transported back in time to the late 2000s, early mid 2010s, when there were tons and tons of indie drama comedies that were being released into theaters. I think it was just more financially viable at the time, but for whatever reason, I'm thinking of movies such as Lars and the Real Girl, The Kings of Summer, The Way, Way Back, just to name a few, all of which I saw in theaters and had a pretty decent sized audience. And it just feels like different times now.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw this trailer, I knew it would hit that sweet spot of heartfelt coming of age narrative that I just tend to gravitate towards. And it absolutely did. I loved The Holdovers thanks to the wonderful performances from the cast, especially Paul Giamatti. It was great seeing him and Alexander Payne together again since their last collaboration during Sideways. And whether it be Election or Sideways or all of his other films, Alexander Payne has a knack for presenting these character-driven films that explore relationships in a really grounded fashion. And unlike Sideways, which could almost come off a little bit negative at times, I felt like The Holdovers was a lot more of a positive film. It's about three separate people searching for family and finding it in each other. And more importantly, I think it taps into getting past our natural, often unfair assumptions of others after we learn more about them as human beings. So I really loved the film. Connor, what did you think?
Yeah, I really loved it too. So I went to go see this in a sneak preview of a Focus Features hosted screening. And I knew, Mark, that you were like really, really looking forward to seeing this film.
Mm-hmm.
I was too, maybe for different reasons. It's interesting that you were thinking maybe it'd be more like a Lars and the Real Girl, Kings of Summer, way, way back. I know what you mean by independent film. I tried to go in with like as little preconceived notions as I could. And I'm glad I did, actually, because from the moment the movie started, it just transported me to the 1970s. It had this great feel. And I think we'll talk about this more, but they actually open with that retro Focus Features logo. They style everything as it would be in a 1970s film in terms of the opening credits. It just really felt like it was in and of a time period. So I loved it for that reason. The performances were incredible. You know, I've heard it referred to as like an instant holiday classic, and it really feels like that movie that I'm going to come back to and watch every holiday season, you know, from here on out, because it's so unique in the characters that it shows, like the heartfelt nature of it. It really captures that holiday spirit in an unexpected way. The other thing I really liked about it was it captures that very weird time period between Christmas and New Year's that's not really ever depicted on screen, that I've seen at least. It's kind of this lost time. And the fact that it's about these three characters together spending that weird time alone, getting to know each other in a very lonely place, made it all the more interesting for me. So I absolutely loved this. Honestly, probably like my favorite movie of the year so far.
Nice.
I would be really curious to hear what you think too, Cody.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I love the film too. One of my favorites, if not my favorite of the year so far as well. Yeah. So yeah, using its textured look, its emotional needle drops, passionate performances, I think this movie perfectly wraps you in this warm blanket amidst this beautiful, somber cold of the East Coast. It's, like you said, Connor, that distinct hybrid of joy and melancholy that comes with the holidays in that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Holdovers just nails that feeling.
Yeah.
This is definitely a holiday classic for me. Very repeatable. I'm looking forward to digging deeper into it with you guys.
Nice.
So let's get into our scene selection, which we're going to call Entre Nous. Connor, would you like to give us the scene beats, please?
I would love to. So, just a few days before Christmas, Angus Tully, who's played by newcomer Dominic Sessa, who's great in this, is the last remaining holdover student at Barton Academy, and he's under the strict supervision of teacher Paul Hunnam, played by Paul Giamatti. Sick and tired of being trapped in the institution, the sequence begins as Angus uses a school telephone to call a hotel concierge, presumably in Boston, to book a room and escape from Barton. Mr. Hunnam catches Angus in the act, disconnects the phone call, and issues him a detention, and then a second detention. In an act of rebellion, Angus races through the school hallways. He's kicking furniture, pulling flyers off of walls, and doing cartwheels as Mr. Hunnam slowly pursues. And this all culminates in Angus dislocating his shoulder after defiantly flipping over a pommel horse in the school gym. Hunnam rushes Angus to the hospital, where Angus reveals his penchant for lying, which comes in handy to avoid an insurance claim that would have gotten Mr. Hunnam fired. After the hospital staff sets Angus's shoulder back into place, he and Hunnam agree to keep this whole situation entre nous, the French language phrase for between us, to avoid any repercussions.
Well done.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should start out with that phrase, entre nous, and the setup for its use throughout the rest of the film. To me, it sort of represents this special bond that Angus and Mr. Hunnam form over the course of the film, establishing that really particular type of trust, or at least like a gentleman's agreement that these unusual situations that they keep putting themselves into will stay between them. It happens several more times throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we honestly had a lot of debate over which scene to choose for this film. We were just talking about, right before we started recording, about how many good scenes there are in this film. There really are no bad scenes. A lot of great different scenes. A lot happens in this movie. But for me, at least, what I had texted Cody right after I saw it, this felt like a really big turning point in the film between these two characters of Mr. Hunnam and Angus Tully, because something unexpected happens. Tully dislocates his shoulder, and that ultimately forces these two characters to be on a level playing field all of a sudden. The tables are completely turned. And this, like you said, with the entre nous discussion, is really the start of that relationship and them seeing each other in a different way.
So, Connor, this brought me back to high school myself, and that I kind of regret not taking French.
Oh,
only because there's so many French phrases in this movie that I felt a little bit lost. And so it wasn't until after the movie that I actually knew what this translated into. So,
oh, that's funny. Am I the only one who took French in high school here?
Yeah, I think so.
You guys were Spanish, huh? Okay.
Yeah. And don't you guys love the line at the very end of the scene, like, Barton men don't do that. Barton men don't lie. And again, thematically setting up for the rest of the film, there are so many of these little elements introduced in the scene, to your point, Connor. And this sets up an important recurring notion for the rest of the movie. Hunnam is shown to have a really principled stance on life. And yet, as he grows closer to Angus and understands more about his background and why he is the way he is, Hunnam reveals that his rigid philosophy is as a result of his own mistakes and rule breaking throughout his life, and that the world doesn't necessarily need to be so black and white. And he kind of gets looser throughout the film.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, we see him being like a hard ass to these kids, basically, throughout the classroom scenes, and even when he's left to be the person who's watching over the remaining holdovers for the holiday break. He doesn't really speak too kindly about them. He talks about them being rich, privileged kids who haven't had to work hard for anything. And this is an opportunity for him to really understand where one of these kids is coming from and isn't just a stereotype that he's, lumped in with every other kid that he's taught over the past however many years he's worked there.
Yeah, I think it also is interesting that Paul, as a character, he went to Barton under different circumstances too. In the film, there's a line about how he left home and his father under a scholarship to Barton, whereas a lot of these kids, it seems like they're, coming from affluent families that
Right.
just don't want to have them around, or they're kind of using Barton as a stepping stone to get into
Yeah.
certain colleges. So he went to that school under different pretenses compared to everybody else.
Yeah, he's got a
Yeah.
bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He earned his way there.
hmm
Yeah.
Another really great aspect of this particular scene is that we get a nice glimpse into the school itself, which
hmm
I'm not going to use that phrase, but the school does play a big role in the movie. Let's put it that way. Maybe you could even say it's a character of its own.
Okay, there it is.
All right, there it is. I got it out of the way. No, but seriously, you do get you do get a feel of the school with these panning shots through the hallways and just how empty it feels. And I feel like as the movie goes on,
hmm
the setting of this school feels more and more intimate as they become more and more of a family. But right now, it's just kind of this open landscape.
Right.
And whether it's films like Nebraska or Sideways, I feel like Alexander Payne really has a talent at showing the setting that these movies are taking place in. It feels like the audience was picked up and just dropped off into this location.
Yeah.
And in the 1970s at that too. So I feel like it just is kind of a nice mix of school setting and the time period. And you kind of see that all in the scene as well.
Yeah, we get a lot of really great details, like you said, as we're panning through the hallways. We're like resting on a shot of somebody. Maybe it's like a president of the school at one point.
Right.
All of these like decorative elements, the trophy case, the math club flyer that's pulled off the wall, even like the choice of what color the floor is, like these little touches of the design on the gym hardwood floor. It
Mhm.
all really transports you to that time and place. And I love how they decide to keep them in and like linger on those details in certain shots. Kind of reminded me of like Wes Anderson vibes in some scenes, to be honest.
Yeah, I got that as well. Obviously, a lot messier than the
Yeah.
perfect compositions that we'll
More
see in
real.
an Anderson. Yeah, exactly. Cody, can you speak to the lighting in this scene at all? It has a 70s feel to it, but I just can't put my finger on it. There's a lot of shadows at the beginning.
Yeah, I think, and I'm gonna just, eat my shoe later on if I'm wrong about this. I don't.
Okay.
I'm fairly confident that this was shot digitally with a film emulation.
It is.
Am I
Okay.
right? Okay, good.
Yeah,
Whew,
that's correct.
Close one. I think that really contributes a lot to that grit and texture that we're
Mm.
feeling. And then in terms of actual lighting in the scene, we're getting a lot of natural lighting of the school, like a lot pouring in through the windows and
Okay.
creating
Mhm.
this kind of overexposed feel that really blends well with the 70s pastels, these muted blues and greens that we're seeing on the walls. In the hospital, we're seeing the blue strip along the walls of the hallway.
hmm
And in the school, we're also getting a ton of that heritage wood paneling and trim
Mm.
to kind of establish its age and that really rich color. So yeah, all in tandem, working harmoniously together. I think that is what is bringing that 70s feel that places you here, makes you feel like you're there.
hmm
All just really thoughtful decisions put together by cinematographer Ige Brild and culminating in this really tangible, textured feel that I think we all got and everybody's getting from the film.
hmm
hmm
Let me take a quick second before we continue with the scene and just mention that before the movie starts, we also see these images of Focus Features, Miramax, and the MPA with this vintage look to it. And I was going to have you speak to that a little bit, Connor.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, that's what immediately grabbed me about this film. As soon as you see those things come up, it's the Focus Features vintage logo. It's sort of against this like burgundy red background. The Miramax logo's against like a pastel blue. It's got this weird yellow and very blocky black dimension to it. And the MPAA ratings, it just, it's pulled straight from the 70s. It's got that grain to it. There's a little grit on it, some texture. It all just really puts you in that time and place and sets the stage for what we're about to see as being a 70s film.
hmm
Yeah, like if you had placed me in the theater, like blindfolded me, you take off the blindfold, movie starts, I knew nothing about it. One might think you're watching a film shot in the 70s and
Yeah,
released in the
Yeah,
70s.
absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
And I know that Focus Features has pushed out a little capsule collection of merch that all features this vintage logo for the Holdovers. So that's been pretty
Oh,
fun
that's
to
so
see too.
cool.
Yeah.
It's great.
One thing that I want to add as well is that this entire movie was actually shot on location. So the academy, the Barton Academy in the movie was actually a conglomerate of 5 different real
Mm.
Massachusetts schools, one of which they actually found actor Dominic Sessa from.
Oh, cool.
And that was Deerfield.
Yeah. Yes, it was Deerfield
Yeah.
Academy.
Yeah, that's so cool. The school really feels massive, so it's not surprising to me to hear that they used 5 different schools to film it because it just feels like it is endless. Like the
Right.
hallways that he's running through, the just the tracking shots through the hallways and everything. It's like, how big is this thing?
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, there's outside of this scene, there's one shot where the custodian, Danny, he kind of pops out of this wood paneled hidden door, almost like
Yeah.
something out of The Favorite.
Right.
And it's such a funny shot because he just appears out of nowhere, and all these hidden little locations. You get the sense that this school is very old.
Right.
Yeah.
Some history here. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can kind of apply all those characteristics for a hospital setting in the 70s. What a different look, compared to something you would see today. Although there are lots of hospitals that haven't been renovated as much as they should, and they kind of resemble some of the stuff you see in that scene. But yeah, the hospital setting, what I liked about that too is that instead of having the warm, bright lighting that you have from the school,
Mhm.
now you have this kind of darker blue, green, indoor, cold feeling once he's being treated for his shoulder.
Another cool cinematography element as the goofiness of the scene ramps up. So we have Angus dislocate his shoulder. They've chosen a slightly wide angle lens to use.
Mm.
And with wide angle, the closer you get as a subject or an object in the scene, closer you get to the edge of the frame or to the lens, you're going to get more and more distortion. And whatever that object is, it's going to look kind of misshapen or stretched in some way. And they've placed Angus's shaking hand right in front of the lens, which makes it look almost like Frankensteinian or messed up as it's like rattling and he's panicking. It's such a funny decision.
So I don't know about you guys, but I thought originally it was his hand that was disfigured, or like his hand and arm. Yeah, it wasn't until they got to the hospital that I realized his shoulder was dislocated. But it was from this shot that I thought it was like weird and broken somehow.
Yeah,
his hand
emphasis
was.
is on the hand itself for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're on the subject of the shoulder dislocation, I wanted to talk about how unexpected and jarring this was, because for me, it was very unexpected, really took me by surprise. And I thought the effect of Angus having his shoulder dislocated, us seeing it sort of out of place in the hospital, and then having it reset into place was very visceral for me. And I wanted to get a little bit of a doctor's note on this piece, if you wouldn't mind, Mark.
Yeah, that's going to be a doctor's note.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Well, let me just say that, like, right off the bat, I'm not a shoulder expert by any means, but I think it was very clever that they did a shoulder dislocation for this because
Mm.
not always, but there are a portion of people who have shoulder dislocations where once you relocate it, you more or less, besides the soreness and pain that you have, you can kind of function back to normal. And so in the scope of the movie, he wanted him to be injured enough that it required a hospitalization or a hospital visit, but not something that would be debilitating and keep him from, doing other things throughout the movie. So I thought that was pretty smart. But the use of traction in this was
And what is that?
Yeah, when you say traction, what does that mean?
traction. So in order to relocate the shoulder back into the socket, you have to use force. And so traction meaning kind of like think of it like a Chinese finger trap. where you have to kind of pull on something. And so in the scene, we see a nurse or an aide wrap something around their body. And then you see the doctor wrap something around his body, and they're pulling in opposite directions to relocate the shoulder, which, I mean, you do use traction. It'd probably be a little less physical in having two people do it nowadays, but maybe it was a technique used in the 70s. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it made for a good scene for sure.
Yeah.
And the cut back to Paul Giamatti as you hear kind of the pop or the struggle of it and him going, Jesus.
Yeah.
And just the look on his face and like kind of his eyeballs popping. It's just such a good shot.
Right. I do.
What
love
about
that.
the little conversation about the insurance?
Yeah, so that, once again, it may be a 70s thing. I wasn't alive during that time, but I will tell you, nowadays, you are not being seen unless you have some sort of form of insurance. That's just, it's the bane of my existence, but it is a reality, sadly. So maybe they were more lenient back then, but I'll tell you, like, nowadays, you just, like, you wouldn't be seen if you didn't present that kind of information.
Not even if Dominic Sessa sweet talks you, huh?
No, probably not.
Okay.
Just an alternate end of the movie. It's just like they give the insurance. Da 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 da. That's it.
That's great. But I did think that Dominic Sessa really shines here in this scene in particular in sort of two different sides of him. We see him in a rebellious turn of action when he's running away from Paul Giamatti's character. But then also we get a really human side of him too, where he lies to protect Paul Giamatti instead of, getting him fired, which he's very worried about. He pretends like he's his dad and they just had an accident when they were out ice skating.
And what do you guys think the motivation behind that was? I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but I'm just curious.
I think, speaking to Connor's exact point, it's twofold. One, that the character himself says, I had momentum. So it's almost as if he was doing it instinctively because his character is used to doing it, whether to get attention or to get what he wants in life with parents who are kind of absentee and don't really care. So that's one part of it. And then I think seeing how worried Giamatti's character was, like he says, that's curtains for me. That's it. I'm fired. I think maybe that might bring out some humanity in Sessa's character in wanting to use that momentum and do this for him, kind of have fun with it, but help at the same time.
Yeah. It was almost like using his rebellious powers to protect him in a way. Like,
Exactly.
look what I can do. I can surprise you in a way.
Yeah. And at the end of the scene, he's flaunts it and is like, oh, you owe me. You owe me.
You owe me.
Yeah.
Oh, you.
Yeah.
Side note, that reminded me of the Office episode with Dwight and Andy.
Oh, yes.
One
I
up
love
each
that.
other with
You're going to owe me big time.
Yeah.
And we can go into Giamatti and how amazing he is. First, I actually wanted to ask you guys,
He's so good.
do you think that Giamatti is the main character of the film?
It's a great question.
Personally, I do.
I do too. The film opens with him and I think ends with him. So I think it's not just his journey, but I think he is our main protagonist.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Yeah.
He really makes the film in kind of that same way that he did for Sideways, but as you said, Mark, a little more positivity. He's a curmudgeon, but he has a full narrative arc, I think more so than Sideways even.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he has so many great lines in the scene, and I thought we could just kind of go through a couple of them.
Yeah.
But Connor, I know the one that stood out to you, like Dominic says, being here with you is already one big fucking detention, and his famous line.
Oh yeah, Paul Giamatti. It's in the trailer too. He said, "Son of a bitch, that's another detention." He just yells it.
Yeah. And throughout the whole film, we get a number of different, like, how would you even describe it? It's these really
scholarly
references. Like, I've got a list of them here. I'll just rattle some off. That boy is too dumb to pour piss out of a boot. A genuine troglodyte.
Jeez. They're almost like confusing.
He calls them reprobates, snarling Visigoths.
Hormonal vulgarians is a great one.
That's a great one. But yeah, so many amazing lines as he's running and chasing Sessa down the hallways, yelling things like, "You are courting disaster, you're careening towards suspension,
Mhm.
you're a hair's breadth away from suspension, I wash my hands of you." They're just really, this is what I think makes it so rewatchable.
Mm-hmm.
I think the character of Paul is incredibly well written because by the end of the film, when he sacrifices himself to keep Dominic Sessa's character in school, it's really just because he had that opportunity of going to college, Harvard in particular, taken away from him. And he knows how damaging it could be to not have the opportunity to get that education. And so by sacrificing himself, he's really kind of preserving the future of Dominic Sessa's character, which I found really strong.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a really great character arc.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I wanted to bring up about the scene, another point among so many, but another point at which we're realizing something very important about a character or both characters.
Mm-hmm.
As Sessa is standing in the entryway of the gym, debating whether or not to go into it, which has been forbidden at this point because I think they're doing like lacquering on the floor.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Paul says, "This is your Rubicon. Do not cross the Rubicon."
I love that line.
It's such a great line. And Sessa says something which it sounded like another language at the time. I was like, that sounds like Latin. So I looked it up and he says, "Alia iacta est," which means the die is cast. And then he winks at Paul's character. And Hunnam has this look on his face where he's actually very impressed by what he just said in response to his Rubicon comment, because the die is cast. That's actually a line from Julius Caesar, which essentially means that he has gone past the point of no return.
Oh,
And,
interesting.
you know, Mr. Hunnam would probably go into a whole speech about how that line may have actually been attributed to a Greek dramatist, Menander, which I don't know anything about this, so we won't get into that. But it just speaks to that relationship of intelligence between the two and
Right.
reaffirming to Paul that while he's a rebel, he's a very smart person.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. And earlier in the film, we see that Dominic Sessa's character, is the only one to get a good grade on the test.
A B+.
B plus. Yeah.
Mark, do you want to talk about the music?
So as this does take place over the holidays, we do, as an audience, get treated with some holiday music. And in this particular scene, we get an a cappella version of Deck the Halls. What did you guys think of that choice?
It's used really lightly in the background with this prominent vocal and then this really plucky bass behind it. It's kind of this whimsical, quick version of the song that adds the humor of the situation.
It's very playful.
Very playful.
Yeah. For me, it almost reminded me a bit of like Vince Guaraldi Trio, like Christmas Time Is Here, those kind of classic 70s Christmas songs. But what I really loved about this, they never go like full Christmas in this movie. It's always used in a humorous way. Even when he brings in the tree, it's like really like small and bad for them to celebrate. And he's acting like they should be all impressed.
Yeah.
Right.
The moments of Christmas are very like quiet, I would say, throughout the film, which reflect the setting that they're in. One of my very favorite shots of the whole movie is a bit later when the characters are lighting a firecracker for New Year's Eve, and it's actually observed from outside of the kitchen.
Right.
So you don't hear it really go off. It's kind of muffled, but you get to see them from inside. So it's this quiet sort of celebratory moment. And this music kind of echoed that for me. It's just lightly playing in the background.
Yeah, that's a great point, Connor. I think that actually speaks to the ending in general too. It has this melancholic but triumphant feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think that kind of wraps up the scene and the movie as a whole. It's so lovely. It's about a man learning how to let go of his bitterness and resentment for the world and really discovering his role as an educator and a mentor too. I think those kinds of themes go hand in hand with the feeling and meaning of the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as we start to kind of think about the year behind us, try to do better for our friends, our family, and ourselves. And I don't want to speak for you guys, but, I don't think we could recommend the Holdovers highly enough.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think we really hope you guys all go out and see it. So thanks for the scene breakdown today, guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
And a big thank you to our listeners and fellow movie enthusiasts for reliving this scene with us. And a very happy Thanksgiving to you all. Do you have a favorite scene from the Holdovers? You can email us at contact@Scenecraft Podcast with any of your thoughts or comments, or follow us on Instagram, X, TikTok, or Threads @Scenecraft Podcast for any scheduling updates and news. You can support the podcast by leaving us a review or star rating on your platform of choice. A very special thanks to Jordan Summerlad for our theme music. This has been Scenecraft, where we break down the craft behind our favorite scenes. See you all next time.